One of the current top 8 fantasy tight ends was drafted inside the top 6 as little as 5 weeks ago. So it's not just a case of automatic decisions at the tight end position. We're going to walk you through our tight end rankings for week 5, ensuring we provide you all the stats and facts along the way. We will start with our S tier, and we'll kick it off with the one player who was drafted in the top 6, who is still in the top 8, and that is Trey McBride, following up him with Brock Bowers, Tyler Warren, and Jake Ferguson. Tom, any concerns with Brock Bowers? Obviously still dealing with this injury, not 100%, haven't seen the production that we expected, but you still got to plug and play him, right?
Yeah, I mean, who else better do you have? Are you willing to bench a guy who can give you 100 yards? Look, I mean, Brock Bowers started slow last year. He wasn't somebody who came out the gate hot like Tyler Warren has next to him. But I think I'm completely fine just accepting that it's not going to be incredible every week because a lot of replacement tier tight ends are only going to give you like 3 for 40 kind of days anyway. And I have more faith in Brock Bowers' talent than anybody I would be picking up off waivers, and that counts for a lot of this position. And the matchup with the Colts isn't the scariest.
Yeah, absolutely. And then rounding out the S tier, we do have Jake Ferguson seeing an absolutely insane volume of targets so far this year. Any concerns that if the targets go away, his production could disappear?
Yeah, I think he is very much a volume merchant. It's funny that basically his last 4 touchdowns have all come against the Green Bay Packers now. Now he's playing against the Jets, who aren't a defense that's particularly worrisome for the tight end position. They've allowed the 13th most fantasy points. I think their focus will be very much on stopping George Pickens. And maybe Jake Ferguson can have a reasonable day. I think the reason why he ranks this high is this is where the confidence stops in the tight end position.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm not the biggest Jake Ferguson fan. I've spent a lot of time slagging him off, but he's 4th in the league in targets at the moment. He's averaging 9.8 targets per game. It doesn't matter if I was out there playing. If I'm getting 9.8 targets a game, I'm at least a fantasy viable option for sure. Moving into our A tier, though, we do have Hunter Henry, Dalton Kincaid, Juwan Johnson, and Sam Laporta. It feels like it's starting to get ugly already, Tom. Hunter Henry has been absolutely balling out so far this year. Are you excited and expecting that to continue?
Yeah, he's become a reliable option for Drake May, and Drake May has been brilliant over his last 3 games. He's got an adjusted completion rate of 85%, 8 total touchdowns, and 1 interception. And a lot of what he's doing right is going to Hunter Henry at the right time. The Bills, their defense, we talked about this in the wide receiver one, they're not necessarily a defense that I think you need to be massively afraid of. They haven't allowed much in the way of tight end fantasy production so far, but they haven't really faced many good tight ends. I mean, Mark Andrews was just not part of the game plan when they played. It's probably worth mentioning, obviously, in the same matchup, Dalton Kincaid. The Patriots have allowed the 8th most fantasy points for tight end position. I know you're still a little bit of trepidation around Dalton Kincaid, but he's been involved enough that now I do view him as a top 6, top 8 tight end every week. And I really think that we'll probably keep him in that range for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the tight end position, it's ugly. If you're scoring touchdowns most weeks, and the Bills are one of the best offenses in the league, they're going to score a lot of touchdowns. Maybe we can buy into that. But Dalton Kincaid played 37% of snaps last week. It's just so pure. I just don't know if I can place that much value in it, but there's not many other options. Juwan Johnson, quickly, Tom. Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau are both back practicing. He's been running phenomenally well. Do you think this is a potential window for you to look to sell him right now, or are you holding steady and keeping the faith?
I'm not selling Juwan Johnson. No, I'll go down with the ship. It didn't cost me anything, and I think that I'm very happy to just live with it. This week, going up against the Giants defense, again, this isn't a defense that we need to worry about. Taysom Hill, the way Taysom Hill plays is so different to a traditional tight end that I'm probably not going to be concerned about Juwan Johnson and the way that he plays. Maybe Foster Moreau, that's the one I want to keep an eye on, because the way they use him, does that affect Juwan Johnson? But for now, very much just plug and play this week and then see how things shake out.
Yeah, of course. I'll keep it short, sharp, and sweet. The subscribe button down below. You're enjoying what you're watching, you made it this far, hit that button. You'll get more content flowing into your ears. Keep this B tier nice and short and sweet. Dallas Goedert, Travis Kelce, feels like they're both touchdown or bust, but they're more likely to score touchdowns than most other guys.
Yeah, Dallas Goedert is perhaps the one that, as the week goes on, maybe I can make an argument for dropping him because the Eagles play the Broncos, but it is at home. The wide receivers so in and out of the game script that it's not particularly great, and he has been scoring points. Dallas Goedert, so it's tricky, but I don't feel like I can necessarily trust Dallas Goedert in a way that I'd like to. But last week, you go back to week 4, and he led all tight ends with 19.7 points. Week 1, he had 11.4. Week 3, 10.3. And you look at that in a fantasy points per game, and he is the tight end 3. So even though it feels like you can't trust him, it's tricky. I don't enjoy him being here. I don't enjoy this matchup, but you got to kind of trust the numbers and trust the production.
Yeah, three touchdowns on 12 receptions feels a little bit rich, shall we say? Maybe there's some touchdown regression coming there, but look, the tight end is just a mess right now, and I feel like we say this every year. Once you get outside 4, 5, maybe 6 guys, you're just looking for a touchdown, and we know at least Dallas Goedert is getting that usage in and around the goal line, and we know the Eagles are going to be down there plenty of times. Moving into our C tier, we do have Mark Andrews, Brenton Strange, and TJ Hawkinson. Tom, I was asked by a Discord member this week, is TJ Hawkinson droppable in redraft? It's been pretty ugly. It's been pretty painful, but I don't know if there's any better options.
Well, I mean, there probably is in redraft. Like, Hawkinson's given you 4.5, 2.2, 15.9 in that massive spike where we thought that Carson Wentz was locking into him, and then 7.9. Now, obviously, this week against the Browns is not an easy matchup. I don't know what the passing volume is going to be like. I think that Carson Wentz is massively a wild card factor, and Jordan Addison being back, maybe that took away from TJ Hawkinson slightly. I just think that he's somebody that I don't want the headache of. I've been in and out on Hawkinson at points over the years. I thought that he looked like an okay value in redraft this year, but right now that was kind of banking on a hot start with JJ McCarthy, and we haven't seen that. So I'm okay saying I'd like to move on, but I think I'd rather package him with one other player and try and make a 2-for-1 trade in redraft.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those, it's a roster clogger, isn't it? Like, I don't feel like you can drop him. I don't feel like you can move on from him, but I don't feel comfortable starting him. So I do think you need to perhaps package him and try and go and get an upgrade somewhere else.
Yeah, and then Mark Andrews, like, Isaiah Likely had very little involvement last week. I thought they were going to rely on him more out of the gate. I would assume that they do moving forward, but maybe if it's going to be very difficult to figure out who Cooper Rush is going to lean towards. Like, Cooper Rush hasn't thrown to Isaiah Likely much because Isaiah Likely missed most of training camp. Does that mean that Mark Andrews is a bit of a bump? Maybe, but it's also notable that Mark Andrews, he saw his route participation go from 74% in weeks 1 to 3 down to 57% last week.
Yeah, absolutely. It does feel like it could be coming to an end. I know I rolled out the funeral for Mark Andrews as a fantasy asset a couple of weeks ago, so maybe I was a little bit premature there. Before we get to our D tier, though, do you want to pick mine and Tom's brain a little bit more? Feel free to ask whatever questions you've got. Start, sit, trade, whatever you like in those comment sections below. Tom and I will get it answered all the way up to kickoff. In the D tier, Harold Fannin, Zaka Chiga Konkwo. Tom, Harold Fannin has usurped David Njoku in snaps, targets, routes last week. Do you feel like this is an ascending player that you want more and more pieces of?
Well, I don't really know, to be honest, and I've struggled with this one. I feel like, yes, all that kind of underlying stuff is there, but since that week one blow up game of 13.6 points, he's had 9.8, 5.5, and 4.5. Now, that was with Joe Flacco at quarterback, who didn't play well and absolutely earned his benching. But Dylan Gabriel going up against Brian Flores in London for his first ever start is it's not a recipe I want. I'm fairly sure that I'm lower than yourself on Harold Fannin this week in the rankings, but I'm not quite there. I feel like I need to see a little bit more, and the Browns games they just get ugly, and I think that this game could get really ugly. They're really struggling as an offense in terms of pass blocking grade, in terms of receiving grade on PFF. Everything they're doing isn't necessarily working, and I don't think that Dylan Gabriel's going to be able to go in and make Harold Fannin particularly fantasy relevant from the get-go.
Yeah, it feels pretty ugly. I guess my one hope is that I'm just thinking Dylan Gabriel's going to need to get rid of the ball quickly. And where's that going to go? It's going to go to the guy closest to the line of scrimmage, which is going to be Harold Fannin. So that's my hope, is that he can perhaps get there just on pure volume alone. Also in this tier, we've got Chiga Konkwo. Worth mention, I think Chig's not looked incredible. He's been okay. But there is a lot of talk that Gunnar Helm is going to get more usage, even if Okonkwo starts to lose 15, 20, 30% of snaps. I think that's potentially going to knock him out of any world of being fantasy relevant.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Cardinals allow the 12th most fantasy points to the tight end position, and that definitely influenced where Chig is this week for me, like just wanting to bump him up and just hoping that the matchup is good and that it works to his favor. But if we do start seeing Gunnar Helm take a little bit more of the work, I think Chig will be very droppable next week.
And then the final tier, Dalton Schultz, Darren Waller, Jake Tongs, and Mason Taylor. Tom, I laughed out loud at somebody in my home league for dropping 35% of their waiver budget on Darren Waller, and I got told that I was being too harsh by the rest of the league. Do you think that there's any hope that Darren Waller could be fantasy relevant, or do you think that it's a high level of him not producing?
Well, his score last week was the 8th highest total by a tight end through 4 weeks so far. And it seemed like there was a real game plan around getting Darren Waller involved from the get-go. I don't know if that's going to stick. I don't know if Darren Waller's health is going to stick. This is somebody who hasn't played much football at all in the last few years. And even when he was playing football, wasn't the most consistently healthy. But with Tyreek Hill injured, it opens the door. They need another pass catcher to stand up. We saw how this team schemed Jonnu Smith last year. Darren Waller is a very athletic guy, and he was in good kind of shape, not footballing shape, but good shape. Like, he does a lot of CrossFit, like goes to CrossFit contests and all this kind of mad stuff. So perhaps they're able to get him involved there. And against the Panthers, who will have the 6th most fantasy points to the tight end position, maybe Darren Waller runs hot again this week, but it's something I'd much more be interested in for DFS rather than a managed roster.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can feel any confidence in a guy that played 16 snaps last week and managed to turn those 16 snaps into 2 touchdowns. But maybe I'm just being a Darren Waller hater, and maybe he's going to make me look like I've got some egg on my face come the end of the week. But if you're looking for other rankings, make sure you check out these other positional rankings we've published this week. And of course, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and hit the hype on your way out.